So today, we're going to talk about that voice in your head. You know the one, the narrator that just never seems to take a break. In this explainer, we're going to break down why that happens, and more importantly, what the science actually says about how to quiet it down. Let's dive in.
Does this sound familiar? That constant running commentary in the back of your mind? Replaying conversations, worrying about the future, just narrating everything. If it does, you are definitely not alone. It's a super common human experience. But it's not just thinking, it's a very specific kind of mental process, and it actually has a name.
It's called recursive processing. And here's the key thing to get. This isn't just your brain thinking about stuff. It's your brain thinking about you. It's meta-thinking. It's constantly evaluating you, your performance, your place in the social world, and it's always updating the story of who you are. It is quite literally a loop.
And this shows you exactly how that loop gets going. It all starts with some kind of trigger, a stimulus. Your brain immediately makes it about you. That's the self-reference part. Then it jumps to evaluation. Is this good for me, bad for me? From there, you build some kind of meaning, and finally, you figure out where you stand. And then, poof, the loop starts all over again.
Okay, so we know what it is, we see the mechanics, but the big question, the one we all want answered, is why is this thing so hard to escape? Why is it so sticky? Well, the first big reason is that our modern world is basically a giant trigger factory for this exact loop. I mean, just think about your average day. A notification pops up, boom, social comparison. An email from your boss, hello, performance evaluation. Every choice you make feels connected to optimizing your future or managing how people see you. Almost everything we run into is designed to make us turn inward and start that loop.
Which, of course, leads to the most common advice you hear and the most flawed approach. If your mind's too busy, just tell it to shut up, right? Just force it to be quiet. Seems logical.
But here's the incredible paradox. The moment you try to suppress that loop, you just activate a new layer of it. You start asking yourself, okay, is this working? Am I doing it right? Am I calmer yet? You haven't stopped the loop at all. You've just given it a new subject to obsess about, itself.
And this is the absolute key insight. Trying to fight your own mind, trying to wrestle it into silence, it's literally like pouring gasoline on a fire. The very effort you use to push the thoughts away is what reinforces and strengthens the whole recursive process you're trying to get away from.
So, if fighting it is the wrong move, then what in the world are you supposed to do? This leads us to a really fascinating and, honestly, powerful shift in perspective. Instead of asking how to turn the loop off, we need to ask what makes it turn on to begin with.
And this right here, this is the central idea of this whole explainer. That overthinking loop doesn't fade away because you want to battle with it. It fades when the conditions around you make it completely unnecessary for your brain to keep running that program.
This chart just lays it out so perfectly. On the one hand, you have suppression. The focus is internal. The action is fighting yourself. And the result? The loop gets stronger. But then look at the other side, unnecessity. Here, the focus shifts entirely to your external environment. The action is changing your conditions. And the result is that the loop just naturally gets weaker all on its own.
Okay, so that all sounds pretty good in theory, right? But what does it actually look like in real life? How do we go about creating the kind of conditions that make all this self-narration unnecessary? Well, the research points to three key factors. First up, the absence of evaluation. You have to take away the scoreboard. See, the recursive loop absolutely thrives on judgment. Is this good? Is this bad? Am I better? Am I worse? So when you do something that has no score, no way to compare yourself, no metric for improvement, you basically starve the loop of its food. It just has nothing to chew on. The second condition is high sensory engagement. Your brain has a limited amount of bandwidth, right? So when you flood it with rich, real-time sensory information, think about the feeling of climbing a rock wall, or the sound of playing music, or the intense focus of a sport. You're using all that processing power for the here and now. There's just not much cognitive space left over for abstract self-worry. And third, you want to reduce the future stakes. A huge chunk of that inner chatter is your brain trying to simulate the future to keep you safe and successful. So when you get involved in activities that are purely for the present moment, things that don't build up to some big goal or optimize a future outcome, you effectively pull the plug on that anxious, predictive part of your brain.
And this is such an important way to reframe this whole thing. That inner narrator, it's not a bug, it's a feature. It's an ancient protective tool. You can think of it as social survival insurance. Its job is to help you navigate a really complex social world. The problem isn't that the tool exists. The problem is that our modern environment has it stuck in the on position all the time. So this brings us to the real goal here. It's not about destroying the tool. It's about learning how to put it back in the toolbox when you don't need it. It's about making the switch from always on to on demand.
And let's be honest, our modern world makes this really, really hard. Our entire culture is pretty much built on things that just crank these loops into overdrive, from performance culture at work to the nonstop comparison engine of social media. We are living in a high recursion world.
This table does a great job of showing the two states we can be in. Over on the left, you've got the permanent foreground state. It's always on, driven by constant evaluation, and it leads to that feeling of being exhausted from monitoring yourself all the time. The goal is the state on the right, an on-demand model, where that inner narrator kicks in when you need it for a specific reason, and then goes quiet again.
So the big takeaway here is this. The point is not to lose a part of yourself or to achieve some kind of blank slate mind. The goal is what you could call a functional reallocation. It's about learning how to shift that self-narrating process from the foreground of your mind, where it's always running, to the background, where it can be called on only when it's actually useful.
So I'm going to leave you with this final question to think about. What if we've been framing this whole problem the wrong way? What if the goal isn't really to achieve a quiet mind through force, but to build a life where a quiet mind is the natural, inevitable result?